Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tristar Gym channel. Today's episode, we are talking about Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. I got so many requests to do this video. I got so many comments and questions from you all. Thank you very much for participating. And I'm really looking forward to this video. It's going to be an interesting fight. For those of you who don't know, the boxing world champion Floyd Mayweather Jr. is fighting the MMA world champion Conor McGregor. Of course, all of you have heard of this fight. It's happening in August, and we're doing the breakdown a little early because I'm getting so many requests for this fight. I think this is probably going to be the most watched fight in history. This is very likely going to beat Pacquiao versus Mayweather. The numbers of Pacquiao versus Mayweather. Not because necessarily it's a bigger boxing fight, but because it's a more intriguing fight. An MMA fighter, world champion MMA fighter versus a world champion boxer. I don't think this has ever been done before in history, and definitely not to this magnitude, definitely not in our modern day. Um, Before we get started, I got to give a quick shout out to all our sponsors. Okay, number one sponsor is TimTam.tech. TimTam.tech makes the world's best deep tissue therapy device. If you train, if you lift weights, if you wrestle, if you grapple, make sure you pick up one of these devices. It's the best way to stay healthy and recover from your workouts. Nothing on the market is better than the Tim Tam. I use it with all my pros, etc. It is the best product out there. Next up is DefenseTech.co. DefenseTech.co sells all sorts of different types of pepper spray, bear spray, secret cameras, hidden knives, all that crazy stuff you need. It's an incredibly high-tech site. All the stuff you need to keep your house safe, your apartment safe, your person safe. Check it out, defensetech.co. The link is in the description, and all orders over $100 is free on shipping. I want to thank Reebok, of course, Reebok here, and Expand Nutrition. Expand Nutrition certifies all their product. Thank you, Expand Nutrition, for sponsoring this channel. And if you guys are looking for good supplements, check out XPN. All right, guys, let's just jump in this right away. I'm looking forward to doing this video. This is going to be a very intriguing and interesting fight. I want to see what you guys think. Again, as always, I'm taking the most popular questions from Reddit and YouTube. Okay, so here, this first question, the most popular question was from Snakelight. Snakelight asks, if one of your fighters was fighting Mayweather, what would your fight strategy be? Well, it's Conor McGregor going into the world of Mayweather, right? So for me, I can't really tell you that there's a strategy out there necessarily that's going to make all that world of a difference. Now, I think Conor McGregor is the better fighter. If I had to compare the two, of course, he's the better fighter. Why? He's an MMA fighter. In his sport, there's less rules. You can kick, you can punch, you can knee, you can grapple on the floor, you can strangle the man, you can arm lock him. For sure, if this was just a fight, if there was no rules, Mayweather is a far more complete fighter, far better fighter. But now he's going into Mayweather's world. Now, when he's going into Mayweather's world, he has to play by Mayweather's rules, obviously, and they're gonna be taking away 50% of what he does, at least. Okay, let's not debate on the number. Okay, the number, I'm just throwing it out there. They're taking out a lot of what he does. They're taking a lot of his arsenal out. So now he's left with just his punching. Now, in boxing, you're not allowed to clinch, but clinching happens. And McGregor is for sure, without a doubt, a better clincher than Mayweather. And the reason why I'll tell you that is because he's a wrestler. He's wrestled, he's done Muay Thai, he's done wrestling, he's done Jiu-Jitsu. He has that grinding gear that Mayweather doesn't have, that doesn't need to develop so much in his sport. So if I was Conor McGregor's coach, I would tell him to tie up Mayweather as much as possible, pull on his head, step on his toes, bump knee to knee, get physical, push him up against the rope with your forearms, tie him up as much as you can, be physical with him. Mayweather is a lot smaller than Conor McGregor. He's going to be a lot smaller, and when Mayweather comes forward, if you try to punch him, he's just going to slip, slide, defend, counter. And of course, you're going to have to punch him. It's a boxing match, absolutely. But I would spend a lot of my time dirty boxing Mayweather, grabbing the back of his head, throwing uppercuts, doing things that are borderline illegal. They're not illegal. The referee's going to have to come in and break you up. The referee's going to have to come in and save Mayweather. And I'm sure that the referee they chose, I don't know which referee they chose, but I'm sure Mayweather's team chose a referee who's going to be no nonsense and so strict on that. Don't forget, Mayweather is the guy who's bankrolling this fight. I mean, the numbers are going to be super high because Mayweather's built a market out there, and he controls everybody. He's I don't know if he's officially the promoter, but Mayweather, make no doubt about it, he knows everybody in the boxing world, and I don't want to say they all work for him, but he's the guy who brings in the money. So the referee, I'm sure, is going to be getting paid a ridiculous amount. And the reason why he's going to be getting paid a ridiculous amount is because he's going to do a job that was given to him by Mayweather, and Mayweather's going to want no nonsense in the octagon. But still, if you go and try and punch somebody that's been punched his entire life and has been incredibly successful, you might, if the luck of the draw, you might always win. But I would take it a different approach. I would rough Mayweather up, rough him up physically, grab him, throw him, drop him on the floor, do borderline illegal stuff, rough him up, get him thinking, what is this? I don't know how to grapple with this guy. I don't know what an overhook is. I don't know what an underhook is. I don't know what this type of clinching is. And he's going to get tired. He would get tired from clinching. If you haven't done a lot of clinching in your life, it's extremely exhausting. If you look at Randy Couture, for instance, he was not a great boxer, but he would tie guys up so much. He's the one who kind of made dirty boxing popular. He would tie people up so much, and of course he was a Greco-Roman expert. So clinching for him is just like a walk in the park, right? He can clinch all day long. And after a certain period of clinching, you build up that lactic acid. Your muscles get a little bit, they have less pop. They're less explosive, and all of a sudden you're trying to punch, but it doesn't feel right. Do 100 push-ups, then go hit the heavy bag. You're gonna see your muscles are not feeling right. They're tight, and they're slower. They're less explosive. So without a doubt, make no doubt about it, Mayweather, in all his fights, save maybe one or two, had the speed advantage. I mean, he is incredibly fast, and he's fought consistently taller people, Mayweather. And he still fights from the outside. Typically, a shorter fighter has to get on the inside of a taller fighter, and you got to kind of cut the ring off and get close and attack. But Mayweather's an exception. Mayweather fights taller fighters. Like, for instance, he fought De La Hoya, who was just a little bit, I think, about the same size as McGregor, maybe a little bit different, maybe a little bit shorter, a little bit taller. And he was beating De La Hoya from the outside quite comfortably, even though he had the inferior reach to De La Hoya. But he was quick enough to go in and out. He was just quick enough. So the speed advantage is going to be Mayweather's. Definitely. No doubt about it. The distance is going to be different, right? They're going to be closer together, which is also very bad for McGregor, because McGregor is not going to have the pace of an MMA fight. Now, I would say Mayweather consistently throughout his career throws over 100 punches around, very close to it. He's a very busy guy in the ring. Maybe not in the first few rounds. In the first few rounds, he paces himself. He's a very smart guy. He wins the later rounds. He will bank 7 rounds in. If you give Mayweather anybody in the world today, he will make sure he banks 7 rounds. He knows exactly how to do it. He's very well calculated. And we saw him do it with Pacquiao. He banked in I would say he banked in 8 rounds, at least 8. And that was Pac-Man. And Pac-Man is incredibly good at crossing the distance. So what would I do? You're asking me if McGregor was my student and I was coaching him. I would tell him, every time you can rough him up, grab the back of his neck, trip him, shove him into the ropes, shove him through the ropes, whatever. Rough this guy up, make him forget about boxing. And of course, look to land the left. We're going to talk about McGregor's left, I'm sure, throughout this video. And of course, McGregor's chance to win is going to be the left hand. All right, this one's from Peter DeGraff. Peter DeGraff asks, what MMA skills can Conor implement in a boxing fight? Can you surprise Mayweather in some way? There's only one skill that I think he could do that would probably not get him disqualified, is not necessarily foot sweeps, but you kind of bump knees with the fighter. So you kind of hook your foot to his foot and you bump your knee into his knee. And that kind of, as you're punching him, you kind of trip him with your leg. But the referee won't know if it was really a trip or not. It's kind of like, it's very camouflage. It's not a foot sweep where you're kind of sweeping the foot out from underneath. You're kind of just, stepping in, kind of stepping on his foot just a little bit, and your knees collide as you're punching. And that'll throw a little guy on the ground. And I think that's something Conor could do, because don't forget, he's a lefty and Mayweather's a southpaw. So their lead legs are very close. And you could trip a guy with your lead leg quite a bit. You could do it quite a lot. And if Mayweather gets tripped up as he's trying to, collect his balance. If that left hand comes crashing down, it could be a disaster for Mayweather. Now, does a boxing referee know what a trip looks like? I don't think he does. Not a foot sweep, guys. Don't mistake. Don't go out there and say Coach Zahabi said Mayweather's gonna get caught up with some foot sweeps. McGregor, if he does a foot sweep, will lose a point. He'll get disqualified. He'll get in a lot of trouble. I'm not talking about foot sweeping. It's called a knee bump. Okay, you kind of trap his foot with your foot and you collide knees together. You bump his knee with your knee. That'll buckle an inexperienced wrestler, a boxer who's never wrestled a day in his life. That will buckle his legs. That will trip him up, especially if you're jabbing him at the same time, especially if you're kind of pushing him with your hands, you're shoving him at the same time. He will lose his balance. He will trip. His feet will come off the ground. He'll be catching his balance, and that will be a perfect time to drop the left and potentially hurt Mayweather seriously or knock him out. So will McGregor do that? Time will tell, I think time will tell. But I'll definitely tell you one thing. A boxing referee won't know that technique. He won't know what it is. He won't know if it was done intentional. He won't know if Mayweather just slipped and tripped on his own feet. He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know if it was just accidental. And I would do it. If I was fighting Mayweather, I would do it just to torture him, just a little bit. Okay, this one's from Shaun Saudi. Shaun Saudi asks, do you think Conor will use a more unorthodox wide stance like he does in MMA, or will he adopt a more traditional boxing stance? Pros and cons of each. In the beginning of the fight, I think I think Conor's going to be very wide stance. Very wide stance. Why? Because it's going to accentuate his reach. He's going to want to keep Mayweather as far away as possible. And, of course, he's going to look to land that left. Now, does Mayweather get hit with the left? Everybody says his defense is so amazing. He does have incredible defense. But, I'm a big fan of Mayweather. Of all the punches I seen him get hit with, the one of the most tricky fights he's ever had was Zab Judah. Watch this clip. I want you guys to watch this clip, and I'm going to comment. Watch this clip. And then I'm going to comment on the clip and tell me if you saw the same thing I saw.
Popular against the southpaw.
There's Judah with the straight left hand. There's a good quick left hand inside by Zab Judah.
Virtually every time out.
They both weigh 8 ounces. They're different weights.
Big left hand over the top by Judah. He believes he's got Mayweather hurt. Crowd is going wild for Judah, who landed a straight left cross flush.
The left landed was solved yet.
It also puts them very close together. Judah over the top with a straight left hand. Sneak that one through the guard too.
To one underdog. And that.
That's the punch that got the crowd excited. Judah seems almost to be trying to taunt Mayweather, and he lands a left hand, and now he's talking to Floyd. And he catches him with a little right hook. Big left hand for Judah, his best punch of the round.
All right, guys, you're back from watching that clip. I hope you enjoyed that. Zab Judah hit Mayweather with many lefts. And if you guys didn't watch that fight, go watch that fight. It's on YouTube. It was a very, very competitive fight. I found it to be a very competitive fight. All the judges saw it for Mayweather, but the judges' scorecard didn't tell the story. It was a very close fight. Now, Mayweather got hit with the left one too many times. Fast forward a few years later, he fights Pac-Man, an even more seasoned, more accomplished boxer than Zab Judah, arguably. And this time he had made adjustments, and he didn't seem to get hit with the left. The left just wasn't there. So, did Mayweather learn from that Zab Judah fight? I would think so. I think there was a time where Mayweather was getting hit a lot with the left, or had more trouble with the left. And today, in his fight against Pac-Man, showed that he doesn't get hit. He was so perfect against Pac-Man. He was so intelligent. He was so ahead of what Pac-Man was doing. Which Mayweather is going to show up? Well, I'll tell you what. If Mayweather does get hit with the left, we're finally going to know how dangerous McGregor's left hand is. I mean, can it knock out a legendary boxer? If it can, I mean, everybody knows Conor has got a great left hand. He's knocked out a lot of MMA fighters with it. Without a doubt, like, if you guys have heard of McGregor, you know about his left hand. Can the perfect storm happen? Can he connect on Mayweather and knock him out? Which is, I think, we can all agree his best chance of winning, probably his only chance of winning, is connecting that left and knocking out Mayweather. If McGregor were to win by decision, it would be very, very shocking. I don't think there's many people out there predicting McGregor winning by decision. We all think he's going to win, if he wins, by knockout. That's how McGregor wins. That's his game. And we've seen a very interesting fight, of course, is when he fought Nate Diaz. You see, McGregor, when he fought Nate Diaz, what was so interesting about that is that after 3 rounds, he seemed to have been disarmed from the touch of death, his left hand, which I like to call the touch of death. You know, McGregor's left hand, when he hits you with it, he knocks you out so bad, it looks like the touch of death. When he fought Nate Diaz, after 3 rounds, he seemed to have been disarmed from his touch of death. And like he seemed like, okay, he's a great boxer, but now take away his touch of death, what can he do? And he started to lose to Nate Diaz. So Nate Diaz is a very good boxer. He's nowhere near the level of Mayweather. So what does McGregor's boxing skill look like? You know, all his success comes from the touch of death. It does. I mean, all his big fights, when he beat Aldo, when he beat Eddie Alvarez, and all these other fights, save when he beat Max Holloway. You know, Max Holloway is a very different animal today. You know, that was over 10 fights ago. He has knocked out almost everybody with the left hand. And Nate Diaz, who he didn't knock out, he beat him with the left hand in the first fight. I mean, the second fight. I mean, he won the first 2 rounds so convincingly with the left hand. Actually, the second round was very close, actually. But all the work was done by the left hand. And then, when he was disarmed by the left hand, what did McGregor do to beat Nate Diaz? He barely beat him. It could have gone either way, that fight. Okay, I know it's very controversial. I don't want to go over that fight. It was a very close fight. Super close. For those of you who didn't see, it was super close. But McGregor started leg kicking. If he didn't leg kick Nate Diaz, he was going to get outboxed. No doubt about it. He was losing the boxing exchanges. McGregor was losing the boxing exchanges to Nate Diaz. Now, the touch of death, its drawback, it seems to not have much stamina, much lasting power. McGregor has a chance to knock out Mayweather in the very early rounds. After that, what has he got left? What has he got left? We've seen his boxing skills. We can compare them to Nate Diaz. He got around Nate Diaz's boxing skills by kicking the leg. If he didn't have that leg kick, and I know he's not a leg kicker, he improvised a lot that fight. If he didn't have that leg kick, for sure he would have lost that fight against Nate Diaz. For those of you who don't remember, in the 4th round, he started leg kicking Nate Diaz and kind of caught his cardio back and came back to win. It was very close. You know, I gave it to him by a hair. A lot of people gave it to Nate Diaz. Very controversial. I don't want to really go over that again. I've done a whole video on it. And Nate Diaz kind of like, Nate Diaz won the 5th round, but McGregor had stolen that 4th round with the leg kicks. So for me, the way I see this fight is Mayweather's too smart. He's going to go in there. He's going to disarm McGregor from the left hand. He's going to take the touch of death out of the table. He's going to use the jab. He's going to take it really, really defensive the first 3 rounds. He's going to allow for the size and power of McGregor to dissipate, you know, to not make such a difference anymore. And the later rounds, he's going to apply pressure on McGregor. He's going to apply pressure, and McGregor's going to have to use his boxing skills to survive. He won't have the touch of death in the later rounds, which is not impossible. He knocks out Mayweather in the later rounds. It's highly unlikely. From what we've seen from McGregor, I think McGregor has shown that his left hand is so dangerous early. When the fight gets really heated, that left hand is just a regular left hand all of a sudden. It just becomes just a strong left hand. It's no longer the touch of death. So is Mayweather going to go in there and brawl in round 1? No, he's not. He's not going to brawl in round 1. He's too smart for that. Is he going to be highly defensive? Yes. Is he going to stay behind the jab? Yes. And Mayweather can win this whole fight with just his jab. You know, if you just jab a southpaw, it's very hard for the southpaw to hit you with the left. If you just jab. Now, a southpaw is going to hit you when you shift your body weight forward. Like, for instance, when you saw Eddie Alvarez. When did Eddie Alvarez really get hurt in the fight? When he tried to throw a right hand, shifted his weight forward, McGregor countered him. McGregor just countered him, and he got hurt the same way. And Eddie Alvarez got hurt the same way in his last fight. And Mayweather's not going to be that naive. Mayweather's not going to be that aggressive. Mayweather's not going to have the same amount of distance to cross that Eddie Alvarez has. Don't forget, in MMA, fighters are kicking also. So two fighters are a little bit further away. So Eddie Alvarez had a lot more distance to cross than Mayweather. Mayweather is going to be about this much closer to McGregor. You know, just an inch or two is 1 or 2 miles in a fight. You know, an inch is a mile. So it makes that much of a difference. So Mayweather will have less distance to cross. He won't shift his body weight early in the fight. He's going to take McGregor's touch of death off the table if McGregor lets him. And then McGregor is going to be left with just his boxing skills. What's that going to look like? Well, it's going to look like this. You know, Mayweather is going to be up here and McGregor is going to be down here. Not because McGregor is not a good fighter. McGregor is a shark. And we're taking him out of the ocean and we're putting him on land and he's fighting a lion. If we took the lion and put him in the ocean, the shark would gobble him up. You know, that's an analogy I heard. I don't remember who said, the guy's name who said that. I love that analogy. It makes so much sense. You take a shark, what's stronger, a shark or a lion? Depends where they're fighting. You put Mayweather in the octagon, McGregor will eat him up. It won't last a round. It won't last one round. You put McGregor in a boxing fight, of course, McGregor can defend much more than a boxer. An MMA fighter can defend himself a lot better in a boxing fight than a boxer can do in an MMA fight, for sure. Because an MMA fight, the boxer doesn't know anything about grappling, kicks, jiu-jitsu. I mean, he just doesn't know anything. Now, I don't like the critique on boxers that they're inferior fighters because of that. You know, what Mayweather has done in boxing is far superior to what McGregor has done in MMA. Make no doubt about it. If you guys know you're fighting, you know that Mayweather has beaten champion after champion and made it look easy. What he's done in boxing is there's only maybe 10, 15 other guys that were that good in the history of boxing. Think about that. I mean, how many guys have won title after title and made it look easy? Mayweather's in, you know, he's in the elite 0.001%. I mean, he's you know 0.0001. I mean, he's really up there. Okay. But it's unfair for us to say that he's a lesser fighter because he wasn't trained to grapple. He wasn't trained to wrestle. In his time, wrestling and jiu-jitsu made no money. It made total sense for him to focus on boxing. So I don't want to critique I'm not saying he's less skilled. He's more skilled. He's gone further in his sport. I'm just saying that his sport is limited. So an MMA fighter has more tools in his bag, so he's just going to beat a boxer. There's no question about it. It's rare that a boxer will beat an MMA fighter in an MMA fight. Just that makes no sense for people who think that that's possible. Look at the Tony fight, the James Toney fight versus Randy Couture. You know, it just, if you haven't seen that fight, you see a world champion boxer go into MMA. It's not pretty. You know, he just gets mauled, destroyed. So I'm not critiquing Mayweather. I think Mayweather's skill level is higher than any MMA fighter today. You know, comparatively in his field, he went further than anybody. So I don't like that critique that he's not skilled. I'm not trying to say he's not skilled. He's not trained to do that. That's why he can't do it. You know, and it's just the nature of his sport. So back to what I was telling you. Conor in the later rounds is going to take a more narrow stance. I went off on a bit of a tangent there, guys. But Mayweather is going to be in a more, McGregor is going to be in a more narrow stance later in the fight simply because he's going to want to conserve energy. So after round 4, 5, 6, 7, his feet are going to get more and more narrow. Why? Because the more narrow your feet are, the less energy it costs you to move around. And McGregor's going to need to conserve energy. If he stays in a wide stance, he's going to be slow and he's going to get hammered. He's going to get punished. So look for a McGregor's stance to change later in the fight. It's going to get more and more narrow. All right, guys, let me get to the next question here. This one's from Faith Rocks. Because it's a battle between two excellent counterpunchers, who do you think will be the most aggressive in the fight? I think McGregor's going to be very aggressive in the early in the fight, and Mayweather's going to be very laid back. For those of you who don't know Mayweather will typically, you know, almost all his first rounds in a fight he loses, or they're like draws. You can't even tell who won. You know, if you look at his fight with Zab Judah or with Pac-Man, I mean, he makes it close. I don't think he tries to win round 1. Mayweather goes in there and he figures you out in round 1. He figures you out in round 2. And then there's a point where he runs away with the fight. He's totally understood what you do. and you can't do it. He takes it off the table. Whatever you're good at, he takes it off the table, and he just plays with you. He just kind of dismantles you. He's gonna probably lose round 1 and 2, or he's gonna make it a draw, or he's gonna win it by a hair. He's not gonna dominate early. I don't think so. He could definitely. He could definitely, but why? He's got 12 rounds to fight. He's got 12 rounds. He's done 12 rounds so many times in his career. I mean, over 40 times, like I'm not even sure about that, but at least over 30 times. Okay, well over 30 times. He's not a knockout puncher. He's done the distance many times. McGregor's the opposite. McGregor's not gone the distance. McGregor always wins within a round. Well, every time he's gone the distance, it wasn't pretty, or actually, save the Max Holloway fight, he has one fight where he went with Diaz, the distance, and it wasn't pretty, the win. So Mayweather is gonna shine after round 4 or 5. He's gonna shine. He's gonna look so much better than McGregor. So why would he roll the dice in round 1? He's too smart of a guy. He's too careful of a guy. I don't think he's built this illustrious career just to gamble it all in round 1. It's not a smart strategy for Mayweather. So look for Mayweather to be very passive, jab, footwork, movement, distance. He's gonna want to feel Mayweather. He's gonna want to feel McGregor's left hand. He's gonna want to see how much power McGregor really has. He's gonna assess. He's gonna go in there in round 1 and he's gonna do a reconnaissance, mission. He's gonna learn everything about McGregor, and it's only gonna take him 1 round. And don't forget, Mayweather doesn't watch fights of his opponents. At least that's what he claims. He doesn't watch fights of his opponents. So he's probably seen a few McGregor fights because he's been to UFC and he's seen him on TV. But when he gets in there, he's gonna want to feel how fast McGregor is. He's gonna want to feel how strong McGregor is, and from there, he's gonna take it over. He's gonna come up with his game plan. So look for round 1 to be very, very calculated from Mayweather. It's not gonna be super exciting round 1. Mayweather's gonna turn it up in round 3, 4, 5, 6. At least that's what he's done typically in the past. All right, guys, this one is from Rafi. I think I'm gonna be. Let me see here. No, I'm going to keep it going. Guys, I've gotten so many questions that I think I might have to do 2 episodes. Okay, so I mean, if this video gets a lot of likes, if it gets 1,000 likes, I will do a second episode. Okay, I won't put up another collection of comments and questions, but I will do a second episode if you guys keep asking me, because I got a ton of questions. Okay, but Rafi's question was super highly voted, and he put up multiple questions, and they're really short and brief, so it's going to be really good. Okay, so he says, do you think Conor has a cardio to go 12 rounds with Mayweather? Mayweather throws a lot more punches in a fight than an MMA fighter. MMA fighters don't throw as many punches. It's a different type of cardio. I can't tell you McGregor has less cardio. McGregor has more cardio in MMA. He has more MMA cardio, less boxing cardio. So what's the fight? The fight's a boxing match. He's going to have less cardio than Mayweather. That's for sure. Mayweather is going to be busier. Mayweather throws consistently a high amount of punches to win fights. McGregor throws a small amount of punches, but he doesn't need to throw a lot of punches because he's a power puncher. He's a knockout artist. He's got the touch of death. In the later rounds, the touch of death won't matter anymore, and McGregor is gonna fall behind. The punch count is way higher. If you guys don't factor that in, you're gonna miscalculate, I think, quite a bit. Boxers obviously punch a lot more, significantly a lot more than MMA fighters. They have bigger gloves. MMA fighters have a variety of other options. They can knee, they can kick, they can elbow. Why would they just focus on punching? So the punching output is way too high. And in later rounds, McGregor will start to fall behind. But I'm not saying he's going to knock out McGregor, because Mayweather hasn't knocked out anybody in a long time. When he knocked out Ortiz, a couple of years ago, Ortiz was kind of trying to apologize to him for headbutting him, and Mayweather, I don't want to get into the controversy. I'm not saying Mayweather was right or wrong. You're supposed to defend yourself at all time. You're not supposed to be talking in the fight. And Mayweather just kind of cracked him a couple of shots and knocked him out. But other than that, he hasn't knocked out anybody in a long, long time. The only fight I can think of right now in the recent years was Ricky Hatton, and that was a long time ago. So Mayweather, for those of you who don't know, Mayweather has broken his hands many, many times. He has very, very brittle hands. From what I've heard, he always wears the most padded boxing gloves as well, because his hands are so damaged. One guy who trains with him told me that story one time. He was telling me that Mayweather, his hands are so brittle, he wears only the most padded gloves. So I think McGregor, he might get stopped TKO'd, but I don't think he'll get knocked out cold. Maybe. I mean, definitely it's very possible. I mean, Mayweather's going to have a lot of clean shots. Mayweather's going to land a lot of clean shots on McGregor. A lot. And but McGregor's tough. He's bigger. He's stronger. Physically bigger. Physically, he's got a great chin. McGregor, you know, he's a tough kid. He's a very tough kid. If Mayweather breaks his hand in the fight, I don't see him doing much. If the fight is boring, I'll tell you why it's going to be boring. There's a possibility why the fight could be boring. Mayweather breaks his hand in the fight early on, which is a very possible thing. It can happen. It happens. It's happened to Mayweather in the past. And then he's just going to try to outpoint McGregor, dance around, tiptoe, touch him, pick and poke, stick and move. And it's not going to be super exciting, and he's going to win around the cards, and people are going to complain about the fight. It can happen. This is a possibility. Mayweather will not put his health and career on the line. He won't jeopardize his health. So, can McGregor do the whole 12 rounds? Sure. Possible. Very possible. Mayweather has done 12 rounds with many boxers. The vast majority of people who fought Mayweather has made it through to the 12 rounds. And especially in recent history. Mayweather has not knocked out many people. How much will 10-ounce gloves reduce Conor McGregor's left hand? I have no idea. But I think it's going to be significant. Not only because there's 6 extra ounces, but Mayweather also has 6 extra ounces on each glove to protect himself with. Think about that. When you ball up in MMA, you only got 8 ounces of shield on your hands. In this fight, he's going to have 20 ounces to defend with. So not only is McGregor carrying an extra 12, Mayweather is defending with a whole 20 ounces. You know, he's also got an extra 12. So it's going to hurt the touch of death. How can it not? How can it not? They're both wearing much. Imagine all of. So at MMA, it's a 4-ounce glove. Imagine all of McGregor's fights, he had to put on 2 MMA gloves. Still, it would only be 8 ounces. The gloves they're fighting with, from what I understand, is 10 ounce. You know, it's not exactly like wearing two MMA gloves, but think about it. It's almost there. You know, it's not that padded. I don't want to say most of the weight is behind the arm, etc. It's not that padded, but it's a lot more padding than MMA. It's a lot more. It's going to hamper the touch of death, no doubt about it. Okay. I've sparred with guys who wear 16-ounce gloves, and I've sparred with guys who wear 18-ounce gloves. That's just 2 ounces difference. And the glove makes all the difference in the world. The 18 ounce is very, very it's just another level of safety. It's nowhere near as impactful as a 16-ounce sparring glove or a 14-ounce sparring glove. Just 2 ounces makes a big difference. So yes, look for it to muffle the left hand, definitely. What would Conor's best strategy for beating Floyd? I went over that. What is Floyd's age a hindrance? It hasn't been so far, so I don't think so. It hasn't been so far. Next question. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. It's been over 30 minutes. Do you think Conor McGregor's going to win any rounds? Very likely the early rounds. If the left hand lands, he could shock the world. And if the left hand lands, his left straight will be the greatest left straight of all time. No doubt about it, guys. If he lands that left and knocks out Mayweather, he will forever be remembered until someone else comes along as the best left cross in history. Does he have the best left cross in history? We'll have to wait and see. All right, guys. Next question here. This will be one of the last for sure. Armor King, what is harder to prepare for? 12 rounds of boxing or 5 rounds of MMA? 5 rounds of MMA is a lot harder to get ready for. Why? You have more bases to cover. You got to learn to grapple. You need not only to learn how to grapple and wrestle and kick, and you need cardio for wrestling. You need so much more things. It's not comparable. Boxing is a tough sport, definitely. MMA is a much tougher sport. We're hitting bone on bone. You can think about it. You could put your opponent down on the ground and elbow him in the head. Are you going to compare that to a punch? You know, ask one of your friends to put on the boxing gloves and go spar with him. Then ask him to elbow you in the face, sit on top of you and elbow you. The elbow's a lot worse, okay? Trust me. Take my word for it. Don't do this experiment. Don't ask your friend to elbow you in the head. I've been elbowed in the head. It's much worse. Don't make any mistake. A knee to the face is highly, highly dangerous. Punching is a Mickey Mouse activity compared with 10-ounce gloves. It's compared to an MMA fight. MMA fight is far more dangerous. Maybe not for long-term damage. You know, I know a lot of you guys are going to pull out statistics that boxers have more brain damage, or I don't know anything about that. I haven't seen any evidence or proof of that yet. I personally haven't reviewed any proof of that. I'm just telling you that MMA has a lot more ways to kill. And some of them are more vicious than punches. Knees to the head, kicks to the head, flying knees, elbows, ground and pound stuff is more vicious. Make no mistake about it. World News asks, do you think Conor's hand speed will be slower with the big gloves? Do you think he will significantly be slower than Mayweather? Now, a lot of you want to talk about the gloves. He's going to be slower. Mayweather could win just with his jab, guys. He can make this really boring, never transfer his weight, never take a chance to get hit, and just pick and poke and beat McGregor all the way through the bell. It would make for a boring fight, and you guys would probably hate Mayweather forever. All the MMA fans would hate Mayweather probably forever. I don't think he's going to do that. He's not going to need to do that. He's going to see a lot of openings. He's going to find the body on McGregor. We've seen McGregor's sparring footage online. He's good. He's a very good boxer. He's not an elite boxer. At least not. We haven't seen that yet in his footage. Is he going to rise and shine on Fight Night? Maybe. You know, we've seen him do it before. But again, this is a different animal. So we'll have to wait and see. You know, nobody knows. That's why we're having the fight. But the gloves are going to make a huge difference. Huge. If this was a boxing fight with MMA gloves, I would triple the odds of McGregor winning. Think about that. If this was a fight with 4-ounce MMA gloves in boxing, that's what I think would be fair. That would be a much fairer fight. Much fairer. Have McGregor do a gentleman's agreement. Mayweather comes in UFC. He fights him. McGregor, just verbally agrees. Doesn't on paper you can grapple, you can wrestle, you can kick. But Mayweather's not going to do that. McGregor's not going to do it. Of course, this would never happen. They would never do a gentleman's agreement. Absolutely not. A gentleman's agreement, for those who don't know, in Japan, it was quite popular. Hitting on the ground was allowed, or certain strikes were allowed, but there was a gentleman's agreement that they didn't do that to each other. When they'd fight, once they hit the ground, they wouldn't hit each other. Even though in the rules you're allowed. It was just considered dirty. Now, there's gentleman's agreement in many sports. Like, for instance, Muay Thai. You're allowed to push kick in the cup. You're allowed to elbow. Of course, you're allowed these things. Sometimes guys will fight each other so many times, they agree. So in Thailand, you grow up in a village, you might fight the same guy 10, 12 times, 20 times, 30 times in your career. And when you fight that guy, you guys have an agreement that we don't elbow. We got kids to feed, we got jobs, or not jobs, but, we want to stay healthy and fight 2 weeks from now and keep earning money. But if you got a cut, you can't fight, and the guy's losing from his purse. So sometimes the ties, they're not talking to the promoter. They're just, have a gentleman's agreement, and they won't do certain techniques so that the guy can fight 2 weeks from now. Now, if we wanted to make this fight as fair as possible, I would love to see this fight with 4-ounce gloves, and it would make a huge difference. Huge. But it's not. 10-ounce gloves. 10-ounce gloves are going to be a major hindrance for McGregor, not for Mayweather. Okay, guys, this is the last question. We are over time. Last one. This one is from KA3A Hoba. Why does this fight benefit the MMA world? Why does this fight benefit the MMA world? This fight is great for the MMA world, in my opinion, and bad for the boxing world. Boxing has nothing to gain. Boxing is basically telling the world, hey, we have nobody left interesting to fight in boxing, so let's bring in an MMA guy because they're more popular than our boxers today. That's what this fight is telling me. And the boxing fans are going to get to know McGregor. They're going to get to know other MMA fighters. They're going to get to know the UFC. They're going to be introduced to the UFC, and UFC is going to rack in a bunch of new fans. A bunch of new fans. When Brock Lesnar came to the UFC, he brought in a lot of wrestling fans. A lot. And this fight in the boxing arena is going to transform, in my opinion, a lot of boxing fans into MMA fans. McGregor's going to be brash, he's going to be crazy, he's going to be wild, and he's going to attract a lot of fans. And boxing is probably going to die a slow death. I know we've been saying that for 10 years, but look, they need to bring in an MMA guy to sell tickets now. I've been saying this for years. MMA is going to take over the sports world. MMA will be more popular, in my opinion, than boxing, NBA, MLB, NHL, and boxing. MMA fighters in the future will be making $50 million a fight, $100 million a fight. One day there'll be a mega fight where they're going to get $200 million. Exactly what happened in boxing, and it's going to happen in MMA. So, in my opinion, this is a historical moment because this could be the death of boxing. This could be the death. If you need an MMA guy to sell tickets, what does that tell you? What are you going to bring in next? An NFL guy? You know? There's nobody else to challenge the best pound-for-pound boxer alive today than a guy from a different sport. Of course, it has a lot to do with McGregor's brand. McGregor has that personality. He's got that out. You know, there have been better fighters than McGregor in MMA for sure, and they didn't go into boxing. Why? There hasn't been a talker like McGregor. You know, his marketing, his charisma. That's what's really making this fight. It's not his skill. Okay, his skill is great. Yeah, he's a great fighter. There have been more skilled fighters. You know, if we're gonna go greatest fighters of all time in MMA, McGregor's not gonna be number one. You know, on experts lists, he won't be number one. Again, his career is still relatively young. You know, he still has a lot to do. Maybe he'll get there. I'm not saying he'll never get there, but he's had some key performances that would not put him at number one. However, his marketing, his brand, his name is so big right now that he can go into another sport. There's no boxer out there that has that brand. So what's going to happen after this fight? His brand, his charm and all that stuff is going to swoop in and just take a lot of fans, you know. So don't forget, there's a lot of big boxing fights happening just before this fight and just after this fight, and they're going to all be outshined. You know, Canelo's fighting a Triple G right after, not long after. I think everybody's going to be spending their pay-per-view money on Mayweather versus McGregor instead. That's going to hurt boxing really badly. So, with that said, this fight is very good for MMA, very bad for boxing in my opinion, but who knows? Boxing's been very resilient. We've been expecting it to die for quite some time. All right, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you made it this far, special thank you to you. And please remember, share, like, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Bonjour, mon nom est Marc-Élie Toussaint. Je suis entraîneur de sprint depuis 23 ans. Je travaille au niveau de la vitesse avec Georges Saint-Pierre depuis 4 ans. Je viens de tester le Tim Tam. C'est le meilleur instrument au niveau du relâchement musculaire que j'ai testé de toute ma carrière. Je le recommande à tous.
When you train a lot, you get tight. The best way to loose up your muscle is the Tim Tam. Hi, I'm Georges Saint-Pierre. I'm using the Tim Tam machine after my training to help me with my recovery.